Morning, Jeff.
Good morning. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Here for your private lesson?
I am. I got a couple things written down to ask
Oh,
about or to cover.
oh, good.
Oh, hold on. I lost the picture for a second here. There we go. Um, yeah, things are okay. How are you doing?
I'm good. Actually,
Mhm.
I've been doing very well.
Well,
Knock on wood.
I can usually hear it in your voice when you have when you're feeling stronger inside and it projects more and
Sure.
I
Oh
like
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll do our ting shaw here, and then we can
All
go on.
right. Okay.
So, your what are your questions?
Well, all right. Um, as far as the form, I wanted to look at two things. Um, the part of grasping Sparrow's tail where we draw in a second time before we expand. I need, obviously, there's virtually no movement there, and I need to have a better understanding of what the movement is or should be, but more so what the internal movement is that we're doing
Sure.
associated with that.
Yep.
That's always been a little sketchy to me, and I've tried to work on it a little bit more this week, and I just don't have. I want to hear your direction in that. So
Sure.
that's one, and the other is looking at the section from when we turn around and chop through when we come down to incense.
Mm-hmm.
Just before gargoyles. So I wanted to kind of look at that and which direction we should be moving, what our hands are doing. That is also kind of murky for me in
Uh-huh.
some
Okay.
that's the form. When we lost the video of 2 weeks ago, the reason I was so concerned about it is because we had that very good little discussion where you brought me up to date with the newer interpretation of reverse breathing versus breathing without breathing and how it was different from what I had retained from
Mm.
10 years ago and what I've been doing all along, really from 15 years ago. I've been doing it all along that way. Since we are recording today and will most likely have this video, can we have that discussion a little bit again?
Sure.
Because I really do need that clarification. And in addition to that, can we also then discuss the longevity breath a little bit more again and the progression up to each stage so that I have all of our breathing information in one spot? Because as I mentioned, I do make notes of certain places on certain
Yeah.
classes where I go back and refer to them usually. If I have all of our breathing information in one little discussion here, that would be perfect for me.
Sure.
Okay.
That's
And the only other thing is if we do, this is up to you as far as the eight gates. I can do it on my own if that's what you had intended, or if you're going to do it with me, if you could narrate the organs again while we do it. What we're
mm.
the organs, the postures. That would be helpful also. And again, we'd have it all on one class that I can keep referring to.
Okay. I
So
can
is
do.
that enough for you?
That's enough. That's good. That probably will take us through.
Yeah. All right.
So when certainly when I originally was beginning to do and teaching reverse breathing, my only thought was to pull in the lower dantian.
Right.
I didn't even think about the diaphragm at that point.
Hmm.
So clearly, I should have been, since obviously the diaphragm has to be involved if you're doing any kind of breathing practice. So my knowledge and my awareness about this changed considerably over the years. So the kind of the basic reverse breathing involves actually, in terms of the movement of the abdomen. Yes, the lower dantian comes in, but also we have to be aware that the diaphragm has to come down. And in a way, it also comes in. And the difficulty with, for most of us, and that certainly includes me initially, is that we tend to make it a solely muscular movement. And obviously, at this point, you know that that's not what we want to do, because that's going to simply block the flow of the energy. So it has to be, we have to begin to be moving into the area where we are moving with intent and the energy, and not depending just on the muscles. We are looking basically for a movement of the energy when you draw that in, that the energy moves from the dantian back to the spine, up to the level of the middle dantian, and into the middle dantian, and on the exhale goes back to the spine and down and returns to the lower dantian.
Is the exhale with the lungs, or is the exhale with the lower dantian and diaphragm? Or is it both together?
Yes, with the both together. Not the lungs. The lungs are just along for the ride.
Right. I just want to make sure I knew specifically what you were saying when you said exhale.
Yeah.
Okay.
So initially, I would say not to worry about the movement of the energy up the spine and back down.
Okay.
Simply begin to be aware that when you inhale, that you can allow the lower dantian and the diaphragm to come in, and on the exhale to come out, and try to let go of it being solely a muscular movement. Questions there?
And this is describing reverse breathing.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So what do you understand about intent?
In general, in our practice, or related to this?
Both.
I mean, my understanding of intent in general is that that's where all of our movement begins. Before we have the movement, we have to have it in our mind and have the intent of what we're trying to do, movement of energy, and then movement of body.
Hmm. So you're thinking of this as a mental intention.
As a what? You froze for a second. I'm thinking of this as what?
Mental intention.
Mental intent. Yes, that's I've always thought that my mental intent, mind intent, is the first step in anything that we are doing.
Yeah, that's the first step. Good. Good that you said it that way,
Okay.
because eventually your intent originates at the heart mind, which is but uh, difficult to describe. It is where all thought originates, and it is the reason why it has that name is that it combines the functions of the mind and the heart.
What would the function of the heart be?
Well, it has more um, it has more actual um, I'm losing the word here, but mind functions than the mind does. And it is primarily related to emotions, where the mind is more directly related to thought, to calculation.
Okay.
So you're combining those two.
Would my what this is starting to mean to me, or what I've interpreted this as in the past, as far as the heart mind, is that the heart mind is sort of our connection with everything, with the universal energy, and with our what gives us intuition and um, things like that beyond our rational conscious thought, or before our rational and conscious thought, I should say.
Yes, that's
That's
right.
that's been my understanding.
Yep.
Okay.
So eventually, what you're looking for is to go beyond simply intending with the mind. But that is indeed where you start. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, but our problem is that we are too attached to the mind and have difficulty moving beyond it.
Right. Well, regarding the heart mind, David, and I don't know how related this is or not, but I mean, I found as I've gone on through life, and in this later stage or current stage of my life, last 5, 10 years, I've progressively gotten more and more in tune with what I guess we would call the heart mind. I call it my intuition. I call it, whatever beyond my rational thought, and it's become stronger and truer, and more of a guiding force in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that connection there is something that is becoming more and more strong with
Mm-hmm.
each year of my life.
Good. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's definitely related to that.
Mm. I mean, have you found that that is something that has grown as your openness to, as your wisdom about life and about the universe has grown, and as your openness to it has grown?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I mean, that's the way I feel, and I'm just wondering, you've been through this more than I have. I'm wondering if that's validated through your own experience.
Yeah, I'm still working on it though.
Oh yeah, no, forever. Um,
But yes, it um, I think that as you become more aware of the heart mind and begin to connect to it and allow it to direct you,
right.
that it brings um, more more calmness into your life, more willingness to flow with change.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I found that for sure.
yeah. So
Okay.
anyway, that was kind of about reverse breathing. Did you have another question about breathing?
Well, a couple more. How do the terms reverse breathing and breathing without breathing? What is the difference between them? Because
Um,
we've used both over the years.
Reverse breathing can be done either in coordination with the movement or not. And if not, then you probably have moved into breathing without breathing. Because that's the point of breathing without breathing, is that it is not dependent on relating to the movement, nor is the movement dependent on relating to the breath. They are both independently functioning fully.
Is the breathing without breathing still using the same movement and motions as reverse breathing?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So it's more,
Or longevity breathing. You can breathing without breathing is not dependent on one style of breathing. It is a method of growing your breathing to a another level of functionality, so that it is not dependent on the movement in any way.
okay. Um, so as far as the longevity breath, then, can you discuss again with me what
Sure.
we're trying to do as we progress through each step to get it all the way up through the back and so forth, and what each step is? Because I'm still kind of in the first step.
Well, the first step is the lower dantian,
Right.
which is really extremely important, and I will add here that um, recognizing and making sure that the diaphragm is functioning fully while you're doing all of this is really important.
How do you make sure it's functioning fully?
Um, well, as the longevity breathing increases, um, both in length and capacity, um, you will find that you relax the dantian more, and it the dantian virtually functions by itself. It is such a without it functioning by itself, you would die.
Mhm.
Um, but our problem is that we can strain it limit it by muscular contraction, by not being fully relaxed and allowing the breath to be as complete as it can be. And one of the points of longevity breathing, and I'll go through all the points, is getting the entire body to allow the diaphragm to fully function. And the other thing about longevity breathing is that it is really an important part of massaging all of the organs of the body. All of the organs of the body. We focus on kind of specific ones in certain places, but in reality, we are trying to arrive at a point where we are not only massaging the organs, but we're encouraging fresh energy coming in and used energy going out.
So as we do that longevity breath, and when we get to the point where we are bringing it all the way up the back and everything, is it like each of those breaths is sort of like a wave washing over the organs and then washing away the old chi as it exits?
Sure.
That's my
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing is that while we work on this, we develop it in a sequence. The breath is not done in a sequence. Everything is happening at once.
Yeah.
So, in other words, you're not going Dantian, sides 1, 2, 3, lower back, mid back, upper back, brain,
Right.
in sequence every time. It's all happening at once.
Right. Okay.
So, side breathing is, in a way, is other than breathing into the brain, is probably the more difficult part of this, or at least it was certainly for me. And it's being aware of everything from the top of the hip up to the armpit. And we think of it as being in 3 layers going up the side. And you want to make sure that you are able to expand on the inhale and release on the exhale each level. And there isn't, as you progress up higher into the ribs, obviously there's not going to be a whole lot of movement. There should be some. You should be able to concretely feel movement. And getting the sides to function obviously is focused on massaging the liver and the spleen. It's doing other things too, but those are the organs that we're focusing on there.
Right.
And then we move to focusing on the lower back, and we think of that being the area really down around the sacrum. And that lower part of the spine area. But you want to have that area also. And again, the amount of movement there is not huge. See, that if you were here, you could put your hands on my back and feel.
Right.
Right. but it's not. You're not going to have a big movement there. There's again, it needs to be clearly apparent, but not. It's not going to be huge. When you move up into the lower ribs in the back, that the mid back, that needs to be a really present movement, because now you're into massaging the kidneys, and that is extremely important for your health and for movement of the energy in the body. So it is another point to make about this, and it's kind of interesting because we're focusing there on expanding that mid back area and breathing in and out of the kidneys. But in reality, we probably access the kidneys more easily from in front. So we're really doing going into the kidneys from both the front and the back. But our focus at that point on the movement of the body is opening up the mid back.
And in our progression, this is after I've gotten my sides involved and my lower back sacrum area involved.
Yep.
Then
Yes.
I work on that as like the third step.
Yeah, I'm doing them in order.
Okay.
And the upper back, and as I didn't say before, but I think you remember, we had quite a discussion about the fact that we're not moving the chest.
Yeah, I looked at that again actually as a reminder. That was
Because if you expand the chest and the upper back, it does not as effectively massage the heart and the lungs.
Right.
If the chest stays basically still and the back expands and contracts with the diaphragm, then you really get a real compression and release into those organs. And the final step is breathing into the brain. And actually, you can feel that movement of the energy if you tuck your fingers underneath the edges of your collarbone there. And it is possible to feel energetically, principally energetically, the movement of the breath into the brain. But you actually will feel it in the brain if you are doing it. So, do
you feel it as sort of a pumping with each breath, or just a regular flow throughout?
Oh no, as a pumping, yeah. But as a flow, see, that's the thing that you're working on with getting rid of the pause after the exhale.
Right.
Is that every time the breath pauses, it interrupts the flow of the energy. It obviously doesn't totally stop it, but it doesn't allow it to progress to its full volume or full force.
Right.
And that's where I think I mentioned this, but I'll say it again, and this is one of those things that I can sort of talk about it, but you have to figure out how to do it for you.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. There isn't an easy way, and that is the transitions between the inhale and exhale and inhale, because they are not inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. They have a rounded connection, so that in effect, Bruce kind of talks about it as being an overlap, but I'm not sure. That's a hard way to think about it, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't have a word that really describes it, other than that it's circular and there is no pause whatsoever. So just as we try to do that with all of our movement, we're also trying to do that with our breath.
Right.
So it's the sense that the inhale and the exhale actually, they don't meet end and start. They overlap so that it's just a continuous flow.
I mean, theoretically, if you're thinking just physical movement, that is hard to envision them overlapping because of the function of the lungs and all of that. You know, the lungs can't be inhaling and exhaling at the same time, really. So that, I'm trying to think about this in terms
But you're trying to find a way that you don't pause at all between them.
Right, and I'm trying to think that the rounding and the overlap could be intent overlapping actual movement.
Well, intent certainly has to be present there, because without it you can't do it.
Right. What I'm getting at is, like, when we're at the end of our inhale and we're ready to exhale physically, our mind is already exhaling. So there's that overlap with intent in physical action.
Yeah, in a way, you're thinking too much about it.
Okay.
It has to be a felt thing. You have to feel that roundness of the connection. It's just like if you think about your movements in terms of any of the pieces, bend, stretch. That's not how we do it. It is probably stretch, bend, stretch. I mean, they're both happening, but they never pause. So we're trying to find that in all the elements of our movement, whether it's internal or external. And because we're working on this particular style, there are places where there is little or almost no physical movement involved, that what's happening is really internal. And it gets more internal as you progress.
Right.
I don't know, was that helpful?
Oh, yeah, this has been very helpful. A related question that came up a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the energy pulsing, the final step of the longevity breath is getting it to the brain. And, you were remarking about actually feeling it by putting my fingers here on my collarbone. But I've got a question related to that, not the physically feeling part, but as far as connecting the tongue to the back of the front teeth as we do to complete the circuit, how does that integrate with our breathing and with fully getting the longevity breath to reach the brain?
Um, because the breath reaching the brain is, as it is everywhere else, is energetically based or related. Um, that's it. I got my mind went off in another thing. Say your
Sure.
say your question again.
I'll say it a little bit differently. Um, as far as like facilitating the longevity breath to be most effective,
Hmm.
how does connecting, is it the macrocosmic circuit where we connect the tongue to the back of the front teeth? Is that the macrocosmic or micro?
It's both.
Okay.
So
Well,
both circuits are, as always, both circuits are functioning simultaneously, not one or the other.
right. No, but I'm talking about that specific action, though, that connection right there. And
So,
I'm asking for a specific reason, actually, because when I get really, really tired, I can take 15, 20-minute cat naps. But when I lay down, I relax my body, I make that connection in my teeth, and I feel the energy pulsing to my brain very
uh-huh.
loud and clear. And that's why just a very short nap revives me quite a bit because I've somehow unknowingly or stumbled upon a way of opening everything up and letting the energy flow to my brain. And this is the first time that we've talked about that, or that I've talked about that with you in regards to Tai Chi versus what I've just described that I experienced. And I'm just trying to make a connection between the two.
Well, I certainly think there's a connection. Um,
Yeah,
that that connection of the tongue is there's more than one reason for it. I mean,
yeah,
it is the principal connection between the generative circuit in front and the conception vessel and the I'm losing my words here,
that's
but
okay. I know what you
the
mean.
microcosmic circuit, which is made up of
Right,
principally two um, circuits of energy around the center of the body.
right,
And so the tongue is the connection point at the top between the two.
right. Okay,
The conception, the perineum is the connection point at the bottom.
okay, yep,
So the microcosmic circuit doesn't function very well if that connection isn't made. And that movement of the energy is just part of all of the movement of the energy in the body. I mean, it's just one aspect. So
right,
it's important that that be present so that all the others can function as well. Not only the macrocosmic circuit, but the circuit between the central and the left and right channels. I mean, it just goes on and on. The macrocosmic circuit certainly is extremely important because that's how we connect to the 5 points, and is one of the major ways that you know that you are really moving the energy through the entire body when those 5 points are all equally powered. But the connection of the tongue is also a part of that has to be present because the macrocosmic and microcosmic circuit are not the deepest layers of the movement of the energy. They are actually more surface layers. They're not entirely at the surface, but they can be
Right.
felt at the surface and they can be felt lower as well, deeper.
Okay.
That,
Right. Right. Okay.
do you have another
All right.
question?
No, I think this was very good,
Okay,
very helpful. I had a
good.
feeling it might go on longer than the 5 or 10 minutes I had asked for. So, but that's
Well,
I'm
that's
glad
all
it
right.
did. That's yes, it's to me it's extremely helpful.
Good. Um, yeah, we did. We did about 40 minutes.
Wow, holy moly. Okay, well that's fine.
So let's do the eight gates and I'll talk the
Okay, the
organs.
or yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
I know it's there. So stepping out, coming into your basic structure, just letting yourself land and be very aware of where you are standing, your connection to the earth and to the universe. Let your breath slow and lengthen as you do as much of the longevity breathing as you can without effort. And then be aware of extending your mind through your body so that you become very aware of all of the inside of your body. Let yourself be very present and find very specific focus in each of our positions. And begin. Coming up and focusing to the third eye, the upper dantian. Breathing into that point and out. Feel that point. Then coming down and into the lower dantian. Feel the energy moving in and out of the lower dantian. And then at Khan, water focusing on the kidneys. And coming up to the heart. And breathing into the heart. Clearly this would be a point to focus into the upper back. And then coming down focusing on the liver. And then the lungs. then into the spleen. Then focusing into the middle dantian, and possibly, if you can, into the heart mind. And closing. Any questions about that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Um, no, I was trying to do longevity breath and it felt pretty good. And it was in my lower ribs and all still at this point. But I mean, I can actually, even though I'm focusing on my lower ribs area at this point of my longevity breath, I still feel it in my lower back as well, expanding, and even a bit in the perineum. I know that's not the sequence that we talked about, but I do feel it. Is that normal?
It's not abnormal.
Okay, it's fine then. That's good
Um,
enough for me.
it's yeah. I think you're not so much feeling breath as movement of the energy there, but that's fine.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So,
I
yep.
was just going to say, I don't think we have enough time to look at all of the form postures I was asking about, but could we just look at uh, grasping sparrows? Well, again, the part just before on is my main concern there.
G.
Right. The second drawing in of G just before, I'm not clear of what exactly what we're doing. I know physically there's almost nothing showing, but I feel like energetically there should be more than I'm doing.
Yeah, that takes a while.
Yeah. Right now it's kind of just a movement to me. I'm not, I know consciously I'm supposed to be doing it, but I'm not feeling anything internally when I'm doing it.
Uh-huh. So I'm going to kind of take the feet out of this. I
Yeah.
mean, not entirely, but
Right.
I'm trying to be where you can maybe see my arms a little bit easier, more easily. So when you begin, you're spiraling down into the right leg, and the arms are twisting in and bending in, and then you step with the left, and you're rotating and shifting into pung. So notice that my my arms that had twisted in and bent here are going out, and they come to here and they go out a little bit further,
Uh,
and then the next part of that movement is G. Press, press forward. So you have a little drawing in and then another going out. And this one is more forward,
yeah.
and then you're going into Lu, roll back, actually absorption. And so here what you have is that as you start to shift forward and the arms are expanding out, and then you touch and the energy draws in, and that's the end of Lu. And then you have a little further drawing in, and then an out in on.
It's that little further drawing in that I'm a little sketchy on. What are we doing? What's the intent there?
You're um, you're either allowing them to come in or drawing them in order to send them, to bounce them down and away. It's it's a little hard to in these movements to visualize martial applications, but that is what we're talking about, and it's actually exactly what we have done in the Yang style. It just looks different.
Right. Okay.
So it is difficult, and one of the reasons I think I've mentioned that to get clarity in this, that one of the things to do is to practice it as slowly as you possibly can, so that you have
Right.
time to build an awareness of those movements. So you're spiraling in, you step, you go into pung, you draw in and out to G, you go out and in to Lu, and in further, and then out to on. So there's no break between Lu and on. It's just a continuation of the drawing in.
Okay.
So if one of the things I've thought about ways to think about Lu here is that somebody's tried to grab you, and what you've done is you've spread their arms, you've gotten a hold of them, you're drawing them in and in, they're out of balance forward, and now you can send them away.
All right.
So did that clarify that enough for you?
I think so. I just got to do it a bit and see if thinking about it a little differently gives me a better sense of internal energy feeling.
Do you want to do it? And
Let me do it a couple times.
okay, I'm going to change my screen here. So after you do Pung, what has to happen?
On G.
But what has to happen in between there?
Well, I'm rotating and
Yeah, and
in.
and the arms have to draw in the whole body, actually, not just the arms, but the arms are drawing in and then out. So that has to exist. That whole thing has to exist there, and I know it's subtle and quick, but I still felt like I don't really see that. So one of the things, another way to think about this is to take a pause after each posture. So Gracias Mistero's tail has 4 postures. So go to Pung and pause. Now do G. So I don't know whether it's your internet or but it doesn't look like your your arms and body have done anything between Peng and G.
So, Pong.
No, um, they have to twist and bend in and then twist and bend out. I mean, that's kind of the basic parts of it. Better. I think one of the things that might also help is when you begin,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see the bending and twisting as you're spiraling down into the right leg because you're going from upright into your basic level, right?
Right.
So,
Um, yeah. Yes. Right.
so, and as you're doing that, everything, I mean, the legs obviously are already bending and twisting. That has to be there. At the same time, the arms are twisting, the thumbs in, and the elbows are bending.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not doing the twisting from the start. I was doing it more as I was
Yes,
rotating.
right.
Yeah.
That was much better, it seemed to me. The only thing is, it looked like your weight was too far forward at G, but
You're right. It was, but it was better because I had not been starting the twisting anywhere nearly early enough. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
good,
Yeah, I could feel the difference very
good.
much.
One of the things to think about too is that remembering that in thinking about the energy moving in and out, that when it moves in, the scapula are moving towards the spine, and when it's
Mhm.
going out, the scapula are moving away from the spine.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always coordinate with the elbows going in the same direction, but that movement of the scapula does need to be there.
Mhm. Yeah. I was barely involving my scapula in that whole thing. You're
Yep,
right.
yep.
I was more concerned with what the hands were doing, and I wasn't even thinking about get all extending all the way back with the twisting and the involvement.
Because
So that's good.
yeah, I mean, if you don't have the elbows, shoulders, and scapula moving, then the energy doesn't get to the spine and back.
Right. Okay.
So
I knew there was a lot more that I was not getting out of this posture. So this is good.
this posture is, yeah, it's something else.
Yeah, it looks relatively simple, but it's anything but that.
Yes, I think you can safely say that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been good, really good. So
And I did record, thank goodness.
Yeah, and I made sure that I noted that before, when I entered, I made sure I saw the notification that was on there,
You
so
you
I know
could
that.
you are welcome to do that every time, Jeff.
But I do, David. That's the thing, is that class a couple of weeks ago. I swear I saw that it was being recorded. I I may be wrong. Maybe I didn't think of it, but I do try and make that a part of my entrance routine, is just making sure the recording is going.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, because we all forget about it sometimes.
yeah, we
So,
do.
so
It's
next week I will not be able to be here, David.
oh,
Um,
okay.
a lot of stuff happening next week, so I just won't be able to be here, unfortunately. So I'll have to make it 2 weeks. And you said
Oh,
Bill was gone for 2 weeks, anyways, right?
yep.
All right, so I guess we'll all have next week off.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Well, good luck with all you have to do, and good class. Very good class.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. This was all very important stuff for me. I'm sure Bill will appreciate it too. And
Oh yeah.
it's here. Now it's here where I can refer to it, and a lot of it's all in one video too. I don't have to go to three different videos. So perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you.
We'll work on that other section in 2 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay. Take
Okay,
care.
thanks. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.